Blessings, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of Yoga for Empaths podcast. My name is Tara Kaur, and I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, energy therapist, and I also offer mentorships and online courses. So every week, if you've been joining me so far, we have been exploring different topics, different areas of our life as empaths, as highly sensitive beings, that can really empower us through using tools, through using awareness, through using just so much information out there that can really empower us as empaths. And I've been having a lot of fun so far sharing every single week, and I can't believe we're already on week 5. Episode 5, week 5 of this series, and it's been a real journey for myself as well as I share this and as I get some amazing feedback through my email mainly about what people have been feeling and what areas they've been enjoying in terms of using the tools. So as always, I do invite you and I recommend that you tune into these podcasts with an open heart, with some space where you can hold space for yourself, and also get a cup of tea, kick off your shoes, and get a pen and paper, because I love to share a lot of practical tools. This is what this series is all about. It's sharing knowledge and tools, and you choose what feels right for you, and you're always invited to use these tools and exercises in a way that feels right for your life and your life journey as well. So this week, as always, is almost like an extension of last week, because we were talking about intuition and creativity last week, and I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of amazing feedback from everyone. Thank you so much. And this week we're going to be talking about another popular topic and another strength that empaths have, which is tuning into nature and law of attraction. And I feel as empaths and highly sensitive beings, we are able to fine-tune this really, really well if we have the right tools and knowledge and the right exercises to try. So it's all about exploring ourselves and just having a lot of fun with it. And I've been definitely having a lot of fun in my own life trying out these tools and sharing these tools with clients. If anything does spark curiosity or you want to know more about it, I will try and put some links in the description box in a blog post. So after every podcast, there's always a blog post connected to it where I put reflection questions, links, tips, things related to what we talk about. But the main bulk of information is in the podcasts, which is why I always recommend having a pen and paper at hand so you can write things down. So with that long introduction, we are going to be talking about nature's cycles, tuning into it, and law of attraction. And why is this important to talk about? Well, for one, I feel like law of attraction has been a very popular topic in the last couple of years, especially since The Secret came out. If you listen to my journey in the introduction, you'll also know this information has been out for a very long time. I came across this in the 90s, which sparked off my own journey. So it's a really big, huge topic, and I really love working with law of attraction. And law of attraction, I think it really does work, and works very differently for different people. So there are many times where people tell me that law of attraction is not working for them. And I will put a link below in a blog post where I explain maybe some areas why it might not be working for you on your journey. But on a positive note, one of the things that I feel can really help us work with law of attraction is connecting to nature's cycles. So law of attraction, the key is in the word attraction. We are magnetizing things to us, but we have to also be very in tune with ourselves. And part of that is also being in tune with not just ourselves, but the different cycles around us. And sadly, I think definitely in the Western world, I feel like we've forgotten how integrated we really are in nature. We're not apart from nature. We're not something different from nature. We're very much joined with nature. We are, very in a place where we're very responsible for the cycles that happen in nature in many ways, because as humans we have that ability to make those choices and do the things that we do in the world, whether it's something that's positive for the planet or negative for the planet. That's a whole other topic in itself. But we're still very much part of nature and affected by nature's cycles. And I think as we're going into the next couple of years ahead of us, especially talking about nature cycles, this is going to be a very big topic where we're going to be looking at things related to nature, related to getting back to basics when it comes to nature, grounding our own energy and our responsibility and our self-value as part of nature. So this is going to be something that's going to grow increasingly more popular, and we've already seen many of these different topics come up. For example, some of the rise in veganism, vegetarian lifestyle, not saying it's right or wrong, but it seems to be something that it's popular over the last couple of years. We've also been looking at sustainable living and environmental, eco-friendly way of living. So these things have become more popular very recently, and there will be more of it in future. Now, as an empath, where we fit in is when we're talking about energy. There's also a lot of different ways you can tune in to the cycles, to the flow that is going on around us. And this is where law of attraction can get extremely powerful, because we have our own free will, we have our own ways of making choices in our lives, and these natural cycles around us can help us and support us in the decisions and the choices that we make in our lives, which can also support us in what we attract into our energy, into our physical world as well, what we integrate from what we were talking about before as being the 5D into the 3D physical reality. So it's a very powerful topic, and it's a very huge topic. So in this podcast, I am hopefully going to break it down to some areas that you can work on, and you can go off and explore them for yourselves. Each area I'm going to be giving different tips, so it's going to be packed with loads of different tips where you can tune into these natural cycles that are happening and then make decisions and make the right choices for your self journey. This is very important to honor our own free will in making those choices. So I thought we would start with a very simple meditation just to set the energy for today's podcast. So if you have time and space just to meditate for a little bit, it's not going to be a very long meditation, but it is going to be a meditation where I invite you to be alone if you can, and if you can't, don't worry, you can just tune in by listening to the words while you're doing whatever it is you're doing now. And you can always try this later, of course. So this is just going to be meditation to remind us of how we're connected to the energy around us. So in saying that, find a comfortable seated position if you can, where your spine is straight, where you can close your eyes and be in a comfortable position. So it doesn't matter if you're on the chair, on your bed, on the floor. Have the supporting tools necessary around you, like cushions, blankets, whatever makes you feel super, super comfortable. And when you find that position, take a moment to close your eyes and take your inner gaze towards the third eye. This is something that I keep bringing up in our meditations, focusing on the point between your eyebrows, connecting to your inner guidance, your intuitive self, and your inner knowing. And start to focus on your breath, allowing yourself to connect with the natural pattern of your breath. So this in itself is a cycle as you're breathing in and as you're breathing out. Noticing that flow of energy through your breath entering your body. And noticing the pattern of your breath. Is it feeling fast or slow, heavy, light? Slowly begin to deepen that flow of energy. So inhaling deeply, connecting to your belly, allowing your belly to expand outwards, and exhaling, feeling your belly contract, exhaling and releasing. So working with that flow, inhaling, energizing, exhaling, releasing. And as you're doing this, start to focus on your heart space. So as well as having the cycle of your breath, start to also focus on your heart space and visualizing that energy around your heart space just circulating. So this energy is starting to circulate around your heart space. You can put one of your palms of your hands on your heart if you need to tune into your heartbeat. And feel that flow really expanding around your heart. And as you're visualizing that energy around your heart space, circular flow, I also invite you to use any color you like to infuse this energy. So think about a color that you feel drawn towards right now and infuse that energy with this color. So colors are very powerful because they tend to connect with whatever chakra we're connecting to on a deeper level. You're invited later on to have a look at the meaning of the color. But for now, just go with the flow, trust your intuition, and work with this color that's coming up. And if you don't see a color, that's fine. Just work with a visualization of the energy flowing around your heart space. And start to feel that energy around your heart space circulating and getting bigger. So it's starting to expand towards your lower belly. And feel that energy flow starting to pick up anything that feels really stagnant. So any emotions that you've been feeling recently that don't feel really good for you, or any tension around your body. Anything at all that feels very tight, very challenging, and just needs some more flow. Bring that energy inwards. Allow it to attach itself to the energy flow and create flow again, that positive flow of releasing. Keep breathing nice and deeply, feeling the energy expanding outwards even more. And it's starting to flow around your shoulders, your neck, your head. And it's also going downwards towards your hips, your legs, your feet. Continue feeling that energy flowing around your body, collecting anything that feels stagnant, tense, stressed, any emotion that you feel like you need to release. Allow it to be part of this flow and allow it to transform into something positive. And when you're ready, feel that flow of energy starting to go around your body, almost like it's infusing your aura with this beautiful energy. Feeling light, feeling radiant, recharging your energy in some way. Keep breathing nice and deeply. And slowly allowing that energy to become even bigger, so it's starting to surround your environment around you. So whichever room you're in, whichever building you're in. It's just starting to surround it, picking up all the different energies around you, and clearing up the energy around you as well. And when you're ready again, feel that energy becoming much more bigger, so it's starting to surround your environment on a bigger level. So the neighborhood that you're in, creating flow around the neighborhood that you're currently in, bringing it outwards towards the city, almost like a spiraling energy around your city space or your town. Slowly getting larger again until this energy is getting bigger and enveloping the country that you're in. So you're starting to see this getting even bigger, surrounding the continent that you're in, and then finally surrounding the whole world that you're in right now. Feeling that flow. And at this moment, you're very welcome to send any healing, any prayers that you want to anyone or anything, whether it's near or far, to be circulated into this flow of energy and to send it off to whoever is needed at this moment. So take a moment to focus on any prayers or blessings you want to send. And when you're ready, I'd like you to take your focus into your heart space again. Give thanks for all that beautiful energy that you've created from your place of love, from a place of heart. Just take a moment to see how you're feeling, especially as you're in the center of this big energy flow that you've created in your mind, in your aura, expanding outwards. How are you feeling right now? Have you picked up on anything through this meditation? And if you've been sending out any information or any blessings or any prayers, how has the feedback been? Have you felt anything while you were sending these blessings and prayers outwards? And when you're ready, feel free to open up your eyes. Take a moment to be present in the room that you're in. Connect back with your breath. And maybe give yourself a good stretch if you need to. So stretch your body out, stretch your legs and your arms. And that was just a very simple meditation to remind ourselves of how connected we are to the energy and flow, not just within, but also around us. The things that we can pick up from our environment, the things that we are connected to in terms of our environment on a bigger scale, so our town, our city, our country, and the world, and how everything is flowing. It's almost like we are part of this huge giant soup of energy. This meditation I find is very helpful for reminding me to be more present with my heart space. So whatever is going on within these flows around us, this flow of energy that's going on, we're also picking things up, but we're also able to send out and be present from a place of heart. So this is a very simple meditation that you can use anytime when you just want to expand your energy outwards and clear up anything going on within and also within your immediate environment. It doesn't have to be outside of your home even. If you just want to cleanse your home space, that's a brilliant visualization to feel from your heart, that energy transforming and creating flow around your home. And it really just confirms that we're all part of something much bigger. We're all connected in some way. And this in itself is such a beautiful, powerful thing. So let's begin by talking about different areas of cycles, more specifically on different areas of nature that we can connect with. So we can make the most of our natural cycles and tune into the natural cycles around us. And the first one is we're going to talk about our own cycles. So within our body, what's going on with our body and with our own life. And you can probably think about different cycles in your own life where you went through different periods or different stages in your life, whether it was on a physical level that you changed, or maybe it was your belief system, or maybe the things that you learned change you in some way. So we all have our individual cycles. So this is just a very general look at our life cycles. And of course, I think emotions in itself is a whole cycle. You know, we go through different emotions. So I feel like one of the most important tips is to keep track of our own emotional self, because our emotions will be able to lead us into what's going on within and maybe what we're picking up around us. So remember, emotions is energy in motion. So any emotion that you're having is almost like a flow of information that you can tap into. So one of the biggest foundations, I think, especially as empaths, is to connect with our emotions on a much more deeper level, so that we're able to just observe what's going on within, what we're picking around us, and how we can actually change our emotions, how we can channel that energy from what would be a challenging emotion, channeling that energy into something positive. And as I spoke about last week, creativity is a wonderful way to transform that raw emotional energy. So first tip within ourselves through our life cycles is being aware of our emotional cycles. Noticing the patterns of our emotions, if certain things trigger us, if certain situations bring up certain patterns within us in terms of our emotions. It's very powerful and very important. The next tip is for women, specifically for women, because we have our own moon cycles. So every month, as we're all aware, if you're in that age group, you will have your own moon cycles going on, which is very much connected to our second chakra. It's also a cycle of life, rebirth, death, life, rebirth, death. It's a whole cycle in itself. So for any women out there, I really suggest strongly to get more in tune with the positive things about our moon cycles. And I know, again, this is very general. In Western society, there tends to be a negativity attached to moon cycles. But I think when we, as women, empower ourselves through our own cycles and get to know our cycles and our emotions that are also attached to it, then it can really help us expand as women. And it can help us choose times throughout our cycle where we feel a certain way, or we feel like we should be taking some time out for ourselves, to have more self-care in our life. So our moon cycles really can indicate a lot of different areas or a lot of different times where we can do certain things and make the most of our energy. And there are plenty of apps out there, especially if you're not very good with keeping track of your cycle. There are plenty of apps out there where you can just click on it, put down the dates that you have for your period, and then it will calculate the rest of it. So it'll calculate most likely the ovulation day and the different days of the week, and you can actually sometimes write down your emotions, your flow, your physical symptoms of each day. So there's some amazing apps out there, and I'll put a link below if anyone's interested in the one I use. But it's helped me a lot, actually, just to keep in track with my own cycle and get to know myself as a woman, how my emotions are. And it's very connected with the moon cycles. So we will talk about that a little bit later in this podcast, but very well worth getting to know and getting in tune with our female moon cycles, because it's very powerful. And this next one is about life cycles, so it applies to men and women. And it gives you time periods, like a certain time period that you can work with. So as I'm saying these time periods, maybe you can reflect on how true it is for you, or if you've come across different shifts in your life that are related to these time periods. This is actually a huge topic in itself. It's part of the Kundalini second training. So I will put a link below again to more details of this. Otherwise, we could spend a couple of hours talking about each cycle. But it's really, really fascinating to know the different life cycles, again, as a point of reflection for anyone out there who feels like their life has been changing, or you're going through some sort of transition at the moment. So the cycle of life energy is every 18 years. So this is when the body goes through a process of change and maturity. So every 18 years, this is the cycle of life energy. Then we have the cycle of intelligence, and this is every 11 years. And this is connected to the ways in which we apply what we know, and also in how we solve problems. So through experiences, through knowledge, through information that we've picked up, this is the ways that we learn to apply it into our daily lives and integrate that energy, and also solve problems that comes up. So this is cycle of intelligence every 11 years. And then we have the cycle of consciousness, which is every 7 years. And I feel like most people know about this because I think there's a saying that we have a 7-year itch, where every 7 years you tend to, change as a person. And maybe there is some truth in that, because cycle of consciousness is related to the 7-year cycle. And this is the sense of identity as you evolve as a person, as you deepen your wisdom, and as you gain more experiences. So really connected to your identity. And on a personal level, I feel like I can also reflect on this very recently, where the last 7 years have really brought up a lot of different things for me, and now it's coming to a close, and I can almost feel that door closing as another 7 years come. So I feel like a lot of people might resonate or really connect with this 7-year cycle thing. But it's fascinating to see how these life cycles are, and I invite you to read more about it, or just take a moment to reflect on where you are in your life and how this might apply to you. So again, it's the cycles of life energy every 18 years, and this is when the body goes through change and maturity. The cycle of intelligence every 11 years, where we apply our knowledge and we solve problems differently. So the things that we pick up on a mental level, on a mind level, through our intelligence. And then the cycle of consciousness every 7 years, which is connected to our identity, how we evolve deeper into understanding ourselves, and from the wisdom of the past. So take a moment to maybe write down or think about anything that's been going on in your life where maybe you can relate to some of these areas, any of these cycles that have come up for you. And feel free to pause this audio at any time. Even if it's airing live, you can always pause it and take a moment to reflect, to see where you are and see what applies to you. And as we're talking about nature's cycles, we also have to talk about the seasons. So the seasons, very much a cycle in itself. Each season has its own wisdom, its own way of connecting. And I'm sure if you're listening right now, you can probably reflect on which season is your favorite and maybe which one is your least favorite. I know I definitely had mine in the past, but now I'm starting to have a bigger appreciation of seasons and what they bring. And actually, long story short, I feel like, well, in the past, I used to suffer from SAD, so seasonal affective disorder. So in the beginning of autumn and winter, I used to have this period of almost, well, I wouldn't call it depression, but it's like a deep sadness or something like that, where my energy and my motivation just would slump. It would completely slump. And I know a lot of people out there probably listening also have that feeling. But when I became more in tune with the seasons and I started to appreciate all the seasons, this is when my approach, especially towards the beginning of autumn and winter time, started to change and really started to transform. And actually I'm using autumn and winter as my most creative time, because it's known to be for the lower chakras and it's known to be more inward energy. So we're conserving our energy, we're hibernating more, whereas in spring and summer there's a speeding up of energy. And as I'm making this podcast, I'm very aware that we're in March and there's a lot of different seasonal changes. So wherever you are in the world, maybe think about how you connect with each season and what each season brings to you. And remember, each season is also a way of tapping in to yourself. It provides information towards how you can use your energy. So with the example of autumn and winter, everything gets a little bit more darker. It gets colder outside. Even the colors in nature start to really change. So what is it asking you to do? And for most of us, it's asking us to slow down, go within, hibernate, be more indoors. Whereas in spring and summer, the energy is much more lighter. It's physically much more lighter. There's more sunlight. Also, there's more colors in the nature around us, which is also corresponding to the chakras as well that we can connect with. So wherever you are in this world listening right now, your environment and the seasons and the way the seasons are in your current environment is a source of inspiration for how you use your energy and how you use your chakras. So the first tip I would definitely say is to make time to go out in nature. Wherever you are, even if you're in a huge city, and I can completely connect with anyone out there saying that I'm in a huge city, there's no nature, there's no way I can do this. As a Londoner, definitely I can feel you on that, because London is one of the greyest, I feel like, is more of a concrete jungle than most cities in Europe. But there's still nature. There's still nature around us if we look for it, even if it's just in our local park. Of course, this doesn't apply to you if you're living in the countryside and you have plenty of fields outside. Make the most of it. But if you are in a big city, it might take a bit more effort to look for little spots of nature that we can enjoy. And actually noticing that nature starts to adapt itself, especially if you're in a city environment, you will start to notice that certain plants grow within concrete areas. You will even see some plants growing through the concrete, which is fascinating. And it just reminds me that no matter what, as people, as mankind, we put down, nature always has a way of coming through, showing itself up, and also showing us that there's still this nature cycle around us. We can't concrete it over. There's no way we can do that. Nature is still in command, very much in command in this world. So wherever you are, take some time out to get out there in nature, even if it's cold. Wrap yourself up, get a cup of herbal tea and go out there and just observe, take that moment to observe nature. Observe the colors in nature. The colors will correspond to the chakras to work with. So in autumn and winter, it tends to be deeper colors, orange, red, deep yellow. These correspond to the lower chakras. And then in spring and summer, you will see more lighter colors like greens and light blues and, more color in general. That tends to be more the upper chakras. So the more you observe and make this connection with nature around you, the more you can see what it's trying to tell you to do with your own energy, and also to connect again with your emotions as you're going through this period of connecting with nature. If it's in the park or outside somewhere, ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? How or what is inspiring me in nature right now to connect with a certain emotion within me? Or maybe there's something within my natural environment that is calling me to observe more deeply. Maybe it's a tree, maybe it's a plant, maybe it's a bird. Whatever it is, what is drawing my attention and inspiring me right now? So have a lot of fun with that. I personally love to do this, and I try and make it part of my weekly routine. When I'm in Barcelona, it's easier. When I'm in London, it was a bit of a struggle, but I still tried my best in the weekends to go out and find a park nearby or a bigger park in the center and just enjoy nature as much as possible. And to deepen our connection with the seasons, you can also start eating with the seasons. So if you really want to tune into the energy of the seasons, start eating foods that are part of that season. So naturally, some fruits, some vegetables will grow at certain points during the year. Maybe that's the time when you should be eating more of those foods. Or you can also go to farmers markets. Sometimes they have cheaper organic food than they would in supermarkets, for example. Or if you get to know the farmer, sometimes you can get bigger bulks of food for a cheaper price, but they're in season. So as you're eating and actually feeding yourself life force energy through foods that are in season, you're also able to connect deeper to nature's cycle. You're also able to connect and magnetize your energy within that space, within the year, within the season that you're in, so you can make the most of it. And remember, all of this has an effect on law of attraction. If you're more in tune with the natural cycles around you, you're also able to attract more into yourself, because you're not blocking it off or blocking anything with something that doesn't feel connected to these natural cycles. So as we're heading a little bit more deeper with that, and one last tip before I move on to that tip. As a general rule, autumn and winter, you can start eating foods that grow underneath the ground. So more grounding foods. And as you get into spring and summer, eating more things that grow above the ground or higher off the ground. So you're getting more light from your environment, collecting more sunlight through your foods. So yeah, I just forgot to mention that, but that's a very general tip, but it works. So depending on where you are, you will know exactly which foods are more popular and also which foods are available nearby that you can eat. And as we head more deeper, we can start talking about the different seasons in terms of the equinoxes. So you have spring equinox, you have solstices as well. So the equinoxes and the solstice. And they seem to be the turning point with each season. So if you really want to connect and mark your diary for when a season begins, even though you will feel the energy coming before the equinox or solstice, then you can work with it. So you can work with the spring equinox, the summer solstice, autumn equinox, and winter solstice. Have it in your diary and make this a time when you can do a ritual or meditation or set some intentions. So you're already setting that energy for the season ahead. And it's really powerful because, as I said, each season has its own energy. So setting your intentions right at the beginning during the equinox or solstice time is amazing. And as a general tip, I feel like the most important and the most key parts of the year is definitely the spring and the autumn equinox, because that's when the biggest shifts of energy happen. So those two specifically, I definitely would recommend setting the intentions, tuning into yourself, and making that day a special day to connect with yourself deeply and do something that recharges your own energy and sets the tone for the seasons ahead. So while we're talking about seasons, we also have to talk about different cycles related to our environment. And the next one is the moon. So we've already touched upon the moon, because through the moon cycles of a woman, but also the moon does affect everybody. It has a big impact on Earth's cycles in terms of the oceans and water specifically. And our body is made up of a huge amount of water. And water is connected to the emotions. So of course the moon in itself is a very powerful tool to connect with if you want to set some intentions. And specifically the new moon and the full moon. So every month there's a new moon and a full moon. And you can use those times, and you can easily find those times online. So if you look for the lunar calendar and then type in the city or the town that you're in or the location you're in, you will find a calendar where you can see the new moon and the full moon times. And the new moon is perfect for setting some new intentions, so new beginnings for things. And it's a great time to set the intentions maybe 12 hours after the actual time of the new moon, because you want to connect with the moon as it's becoming full again. So 12 hours after the new moon, use that space to set some intentions for your journey and for the next cycle. And then when we come to the full moon usually means the completion of things. So endings, things that have you been completing. So maybe it was a project that you were working on. Maybe it's time to evaluate what needs to be released, what things have been completed, and how you can move on. And also to celebrate anything that you've completed. So if you finish that project by the full moon, celebrate it. Use that time to celebrate and enjoy yourself, and know that whatever it is that you put out in the world will also come back to you in some form or another. And working with the moon cycles, you can well, for me, definitely, I love to plan my projects and my goals around the new moon and full moon. So that's another thing that you can use from nature cycles to set the intention, to create flow in your life, and also to use law of attraction tools. So you can always use law of attraction tools for the new moon to set the intention, and the full moon to celebrate and to acknowledge your achievements out there. So, we've already covered quite a lot of different things. And the last one I'm going to mention for this podcast as one of my personal favorite tools can be a little bit controversial, I think. Before I actually mention the word, I also like to say that some people think it's a very useful tool, and some people feel that it's complete nonsense. But I know for a fact it's helped me a lot in my life. And already we've talked about some of the natural cycles that are connected with this topic. So the topic I'm going to talk about is astrology. How do you feel about that? As I said, some people are just like, oh, astrology, what is that? It's nonsense. And I feel like a lot of people feel this way about astrology because when they think of astrology, they think about that little paragraph that you find at the back of a newspaper or magazine. Well, if you're old school like me, they would be at the back of the magazine or newspaper. And it would be a very simple paragraph telling you your day is going to be great, or you're going to find the love of your life. And it tends to be really general. And I agree, it doesn't, for me, on a personal level, it doesn't showcase what astrology really is, even if it's giving some guidelines. But astrology is so much more deeper than that. It's just you could spend your lifetime trying to understand and get to know what astrology is. And on me, on a personal level, I used to read these little things, these little paragraphs when I was much younger. And then I used to follow this website by Jonathan Kainer. He has a website online, kainer.com. And I used to follow that. And it started to make some sense, but of course it was very general. And then I started to get into Kundalini Yoga. And that's when we started talking about the moon, and especially as women, but in general, men and women can tune into that lunar energy, then it really hit me that I wanted to explore astrology. So I found this free, you can find them online very easily. You can get a free natal chart where you put your time of birth, the location of where you were born, and also the date, and it will bring up this free chart. And from that point, when I put all my details in and I saw this chart, I realized it's so much more. It's so much more deeper than this. And thankfully, I think more and more people are seeing that astrology is a really deep science in itself, because there are plenty of astrologers on YouTube that you can follow who will go through the different cycles with you. They will explain everything. I will also list a lot of my favorite astrologers on YouTube below, so you feel free to have a look and join me as I explore with them. And astrology really is a huge topic. I can't even express where to begin. As I said, it can take a lifetime to explore, but to share some tips, to share some very simple tips on how you can use astrology. The first thing is to get to know your sun, your moon, and your ascendant sign. Some people call it rising sign. So if you ask most people what your astrology sign is, they will most likely say their sun sign. But they don't realize also that there's a moon sign and a rising sign. So if you do get your personal chart, and I will leave a link for that below of one of my favorite places to get a chart, that's probably the first 3 things that you should look for. And each planet will give you and offer you information about why you are the way you are, how you use your energy. So for example, if you have a lot of earth planets, or if you have a lot of water in your energy, just by knowing these 3 things already, you have an idea of what elements you work with, and also the characteristics of that planet, have that sign. And definitely look at your chart and start to break it down very slowly. But knowing your sun, your moon, and rising sign is really, really important, I think, just to get the ball rolling and finding out more about yourself. So as you're going through your natal chart, and it looks so complicated, especially if you have no idea what astrology is. It's like reading a new language in itself. So be really, really patient with yourself, because even as you're listening to astrologers or you're looking through your natal chart, some of it might sound like some different language that you've never explored before. It might not mean anything to you whatsoever. But with time, with patience, as you start looking up different areas of your chart, then you can start to build a picture. And I definitely recommend, if you know somebody who actually does a full reading of your chart and can give you some pointers or some tips, it's well worth exploring and maybe getting a reading so that you can see which areas of your chart are important to you. So definitely, as I mentioned, sun, moon, ascendant sign is really important. But also if you get deeper and you look where your houses are, so you'll see a chart with the first house all the way to the 12th house, start to see which house has most activity. So you'll see different signs and different planets on each house, but which one has most of the planets, or a big clump of planets in that sign. And that's the area that maybe resonates the most with you, or expresses who you are in a true form, or how your energy is used. So for anyone out there who is feeling like exploring astrology, I absolutely recommend it. I feel like through knowing astrology and knowing more about your own natal chart, you can start to explore how your energy also interacts with nature around you. It's really fascinating. As I said, it's a huge topic to get into, but I will put the links and some supporting information below in the description box, and have some fun with it. Really explore and see what feels right for you. So we've already covered quite a lot of different things that you can work on. I tried my best to keep it not too complicated, so you can skim through it in your own time and see what feels right for you. But feel free to leave any comments below the video. If you have any feedback, any questions, any comments, I'm always open to hearing it. I love feedback. I find that feedback really helps me to share on a deeper level about these different topics. And this week I feel, and last week I also feel like this is definitely where, as empaths, we come into our power. When we're using our intuition, when we're connecting with nature's cycles, when we're connecting within and using that as a point of attraction. Because law of attraction has so many different tools. And as a bonus tip, just as I'm saying this, as a bonus tip when it comes to using a law of attraction, work with your senses. And each sense or each person will have a favorite sense. Most of us use our sight, but you might also be someone who enjoys listening or using the sound, the hearing sense. So working with the tools, connecting to the sense that you feel most connected with apart from your sight, is one of the ways in which you can gather tools from law of attraction and make it yours. Make them your own personal tools, because not every tool will work for everybody. But if you're connecting to your senses, then hopefully you're in the right direction in how you can use the right tools for you. And again, I will put a link below in the description box so you can explore some of my own personal favorite tips when it comes to using law of attraction, using your senses, and how you can tune into nature. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen, to tune in, to reflect with me today. I always enjoy making these podcasts, and I will be back next week, week 6, for episode 6, and we're going to be talking about some of the things that I think is very important to mention, which is mainly grounding, but we're also going to talk about healthy boundaries. So this week and last week we've been talking about more empowered gifts, and now we're going to dive into areas where we might need to work a little bit harder on. So starting from next week, I will be sharing grounding and healthy boundaries and tools that you can use to manage your energy on a deeper level and develop yourself as an empath. So have a beautiful week. I hope you enjoyed today. I certainly did. Take care of yourselves, and I will be back soon. Sat Nam.